kind of
Yeah,
bouncing
can
around a
you
little
give
bit. Yeah,
a real life example?
yeah. Like for example, okay, here's an example. I really recent. I went to China with my family for about a month, and I was just kind of devastated. I was really by the end, I was so worn out and just down under. I just came back. Like what happened? Okay, I'll tell you some recent. Buddha has taught that all life experiences are like dreams. They're dreamlike by nature, meaning we don't have to hold on to them like they're so real, they cannot change. But there's a really ephemeral nature to things, because things are changing all the time, and they're like dreams, like wisps of air and vapor, like they come and go. And the reason we suffer is we look at things as being non-changing, so solid, and I'm going to give you an example in a little bit. It's just all these things are coming because I've thought a lot about it, and just when I was doing meditation in um, Tarpaland, which is in Germany. It's a retreat center. I did like all in all together, but I was about 5 months there, and the first 1.5 months was about the perfection of wisdom, emptiness teaching, meditation on that. So the teacher would use the great Mother Sadhana, and every day we would recite it, and she would lead into it, guided meditation. But we're supposed to meditate different aspects of the teaching. Like, I wish I had the booklet so I could do it in a more formal way. So, for example, the teaching Buddha's grandmother says there's no form, no discrimination, no feelings, no composition factor, no consciousness, and as such, all phenomena are empty by nature, having no characteristics. And in emptiness, there's no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factor, no consciousness. And in emptiness, there's no ear, no nose, no eye, no tongue, no tactile sensations. There's no sound, no sight, no taste, none of that. And then there's no defilement, no 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 non-defilement, no attainment, no non-attainment. There's no this is not exactly how it says, but
Right.
these are just like the paraphrasing, right? And then there's no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation, no path of cessation, something like that. And then there's towards the end, we dedicate, there's no Mara is basically delusions and vile energy, and because they don't inherently exist, and so forth, and basically this is actually all just a way of saying empty. And what that is I never gave you an example. I'm gonna try. Okay, it's just there's so much going on here. Basically, what it's trying to say is that in the world, we very much like to label things, and we very much like to say this is that, and that's that, and this is that, and people getting arguments all the time. I'm making this money, and you're making that, and this is the tax last year, and this year it should be this, and last year, our company earned this, and this year we've got to do 5% more, or like, you're from America, I'm from India, you're like, you know, you're you're like last generation, I'm this, and there's a real obsession almost with identification and labeling, right? And what Buddha is saying is that these things are conventionally happening, but we don't have to get hung up on it. We have to realize that there's much deeper bedrock of reality beneath all of this that really, I mean, Buddha didn't say we're all energy. I'm not, I don't think I read, like, Buddha said we're energy. Energy is, like, now kind of like a new age, like a science. In the science reality, we use terms like energy and waves. And I was talking to Marie earlier of how Buddhism is very compatible to quantum physics, in the sense that quantum physics teaches us that we're just existing in energy fields taking form. The energy field is taking form manifesting in the form of you and me and trees and whatnot. But behind all of this solid 3D structure is actually just a huge field of energetic waves, subatomic particles that dissolve into energetic waves, that waves and particles can exist simultaneously. There's a lot of like real deep mechanics that underlie what appear to be not moving and solid. Like this tree here doesn't appear to be moving, right? Because our gross senses cannot see all the little cellular structure behind the bark. We can't see the atoms in there. We can't see the electrons circulating around nucleus. We can't see the electrons, dissolving into subatomic particles, the quarks and all this. We cannot see all of it, and we can't see that the quarks are dissolving into waves, which then don't show up at all as solid material, right? So if somebody has an appreciation for quantum physics, it's not that difficult to have an appreciation for emptiness, of why Buddha says we're not form. I mean, clearly, conventionally, people say, what are you talking about? I am a form. Look at me. I've got 2 legs and 2 arms, right? How can you say to me I'm not form? I am form according to the sensory perception of our gross body. Our eyes are seeing this like this because of the structure of the eyes. How we see is a direct function of the structure in which we're born into. So, like, for example, a Buddha, we always say, they both can perceive things as how sentient beings, normal beings perceive, but they can also, I believe, a Buddha is able to get into the subatomic particle at the same time that they're realizing the subatomic particles are coming up with this picture that looks like Laura, and coming up with a picture that looks like me. But then when he gets into the subatomic particles, he's seeing us as just a whole bunch of sparks. You're a whole bunch of sparks and waves coming into particles, and me coming into, and then from that perspective, he probably sees us entirely as being one. It's the same, because you're just waves and particles. I'm waves and particles. He sees that, but we cannot see this, right? But we can at least teach us and start to see it from a wisdom eye. So we can't see it with the naked eye, because our naked eye, Buddha already said, we're born into contaminated aggregates. Our naked eye is part of the contamination. That's because of the visual impairment, you can say, of our senses. Because the impairment of our senses, limitation, we cannot access the entire spectrum of the electromagnetic spectrum. I mean, if you look at in science, the electromagnetic spectrum, they always show, like, maybe it's like this big, and then the visual perception is only this little bit. So there's a whole bunch of waves, like X-rays and infrared rays and ultraviolet rays going on around us all the time. We can't see this, but if we actually could see it, like, I think for a Buddha, ascended being, they would actually have the perceptor to even see it, aside from the wisdom eye of knowing it's like that. But when they can see it like that, everything is all one. It's just energy moving in and out, and that's why we've got to get beyond the individual self-identity, because if we want to have peaceful, harmonious life as a collective whole, as a species, we got to have more wisdom. We got to have more heart-based realization that we are one, even if we cannot see the energy field. It's okay. Someday when we all become Buddha, we can see it. But we got to move our heart in that direction. And that means, okay, we don't approach other people as you are this, I'm this, like an isolational perspective. We don't approach people from a competitive, contrarian perspective, judging perspective, but we approach them with loving kindness and knowing that all beings have been our ascension mothers. Our mothers, that's like one of the very important teachings and practice of meditation, that we understand all beings having been our mothers, including these flies. And that's why Buddhist people, they don't really, our practice, we don't really eat meat, because why would I want to eat the carcass of my own mom? That's how I think about it. Like when I was in China, that was one thing that was a little difficult. I still eat sometimes, like if I'm around my family, and I'm not gonna go make a fuss about it and make everybody all worried, So I eat, but part of me was always a little bit resistant, because I feel like I'm just eating the carcass of my own mom, and I'm contributing to this industry that continuously causes violence to other beings who are but their own moms. So I don't feel good about that, and but anyway, getting back to emptiness. So do you feel like that helps a little bit?
Yeah, I think that was very helpful.
Yeah. So in some way, like, so there's, I think in the Heart of Wisdom Sutra, when Geshe explains it, it's explained in a few stages. Like there's form is empty, emptiness is form is not other than emptiness is also not other than form. So then I think he explains it at 4 levels. One is that form is empty, meaning This is my interpretation. Meaning basically that these things don't inherently exist. They only exist like this because our visual perceptors, our aggregates, and our mind is narrowing down this energy field into the form of this. So if somebody, so for example, I think even if a dog was coming around to experience this little twig, he's not going to see it the same way we will, right? I don't know how dogs interact with the environment, maybe by senses. So he might have a much stronger sense perceptor of this. He might not see this as like a twig like this. He might just, for him, the experience could just be mostly sense because they do a lot of sniffing, right? So for them, this twig wouldn't exist like that, you know? And then one of the things that that I read that was really profound is it said that for a human being, a fork is a fork, but for a hell being, looking at a fork, it's molten rock, molten, like hot, like molten rock. For a god, it's a nectar. So it's saying that it's very profound because it's saying that how we perceive is a direct function of who we are in our minds. So, and this is why it's empty. Form is empty in the sense that it's not needing to be that way. It's not just one. It's not inherently the way we think it is. It could be anything depending on the person imputing it. There's another word, imputing. And then emptiness is form, I believe. Do you have to go?
I've got to check on laundry
Okay.
and stuff like that.
Okay, so we can continue later if you want.
Sure.
And I'll go look up, I'll go refresh my memory of how Geshe actually exactly teaches it. Because then you can have a couple of different ways of looking at the same thing.
Perfect.
And they'll deepen. Because they're not supposed to be separate. Emptiness and manifestation are not separate. They are actually one.
Okay.
From the state of emptiness arises manifestation, But we want the manifestation to be blissful, and the more flexible we can with our perception of reality, the more blissful we can be, because we're not stuck.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you.
All right, thank you. It was great chatting.
Yeah, and then we dedicate our merit for the enlightenment of all living beings, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, may all living beings be happy.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.